Match 70, the final game of the league stage of IPL 2022 is not of much significance or consequence as the playoffs have already been decided once Delhi went down to Mumbai yesterday. But there's enough to play for franchises who are already looking at next year. Remember, it's a squad that was picked at a big auction that'll be keeping an eye on the next 2 years before we don't know what the future of the auctions will hold in the tournament. But Punjab Kings and the Sunrisers Hyderabad will play for more than just pride, you'd think. They could also pick up a higher position on that points table. If that does go anyway in securing a coach's job, we'll find out with Daniel Vettori. Ravi Shastri will join in the conversation too on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time on powered by IQ 9 5G. Hard to put relevance on games like this because the season is gone. But from the inside, these games still matter. I mean, you never know for a player who gets a big one today. Does that change calculations?
Maybe not change calculations, but it certainly puts you in the right lens for management, for owners. So I still think there's a lot to play for within a team, and winning's winning. It just feels good.
Yep.
And so teams will want to have that last sort of little celebration before people get on flights and head home, and just have a memory with them that this team can be good enough, they can perform, and they can understand what it takes to win.
And news from the Wankhede Stadium, where the Sunrisers Hyderabad are being led by Bhuvaneshwar Kumar in Kane Williamson's absence, and Bhuvi's won his one and only toss, so he keeps that trend going from Kane Williamson, and they're going to have a bat first, the Sunrisers. Changes have been made as we'd expect in a game like this. 2 from the Sunrisers, Williamson of course out. They've given Romario Shepherd a game, featured in the early parts of the season. Big money signing for them at the auction at just under 8 crore. And Suchit is back as well, who deputized for Washington Sundar. We'll now be watching Washi and Suchit together for the first time this season. Natarajan misses out, I'm guessing, as injury or tactical. We will find out. We have seen spin play a big part of the Wankhede yesterday. Let's talk about the Shepherd selection, interestingly, first up. What are they thinking there? It's not a like-for-like for Williamson.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a little bit of strengthening that lower to middle order batsman. He can hit the ball. I think it's just an opportunity. I'm surprised they didn't give Glenn Phillips a go in terms of that. Probably, or potentially would have been more like for like with Williamson dropping back down into that middle order. But I think it's just another opportunity for Shepherd in a big game. Can he bounce back from some struggles that were early in the season? And also, I think coaches, captains see things in the nets that they quite like, so they might want to act on that as well.
What does it tell you about a player like Glenn Phillips, or in Punjab's case, a player like Benny Howell, or overseas players who even in a game like this don't get a one-off game? Does that indirectly tell you that they've not seen this player as perhaps someone that's part of the calculations for the next 2 seasons?
No, I don't think they dismiss them. I think they still understand they're good players, and a lot can happen between now and next season, particularly for someone like Glenn Phillips, who's going to be part of an international team, who's generally part of tournaments around the world. He's starred in CPL. There's a 100 competition coming up with the likes of Benny Howe, and I think Phillips is involved in that as well. So, and the T20 World Cup. So there's all those things that can change franchises' mind and give them a different direction on a player.
Hard to manage a player like this, though. That sits on the bench throughout, overseas player. Even when the tournament's done, you don't get the one game. I mean, I think you want to give everyone a game in a game.
Not those two. Those two are easy. Others potentially, yeah. I think it comes a time, particularly an overseas player, where they get to the halfway through the season, if they haven't played, then potentially they switch off, and it almost gets to a case of you don't want to play because if you haven't played for 6-7 weeks, it's hard to get up for one game. You're desperate to play at the start, but as the tour season goes on, it becomes tricky to just walk into a game and expect something big.
Do these players, because they're not part of the squad, does the drill of the matches also get different, lighter? I won't say lazier, but certainly don't have to show up for as many training opportunities, don't get long net sessions. Does that happen with a long tournament like this?
It depends on the franchise, it depends on the individuals. I think this is a tournament where it would have been tricky to fit in those players because of the COVID-styled net sessions where you might get allocated 2 hours, and therefore the importance goes on the playing 11. Teams probably name their playing 11s internally quite early so they can prepare for those net sessions. So the likes of a Phillips or Howe may not quite be getting what they're used to in terms of a preparation into a game.
All right, Punjab Kings have made some changes too. There's a debut for the Saurashtra all-rounder Prerak Mankar, who will perform Rishi Dhawan's role as a batter low down that middle order and bowl some seam if need be. Shah Rukh Khan is back, interestingly. There's a couple of changes there. Bhanukar Rajapaksa has gone out, but they've brought in Nathan Ellis, and Shah Rukh Khan also returns into this team. So that's the team that the Punjab Kings have gone for. Shah Rukh Khan, interesting player this. Big money left out for Jitesh Sharma. Again, an opportunity to be retained, perhaps, depending on how this goes?
I think so. I mean, that top six looks pretty strong. I think we talked about the fact that Kings almost had too much batting with the likes of Mayank coming in at 5, or Jitesh Sharma even coming in at 6. So this gives them a little bit more balance, allows them to put in that second international fast bowler in Nathan Ellis, and they get an opportunity to look at Mankad as well. So they've been searching for balance the whole season, so this is just another opportunity to see if this works.
No Rahul Chahar, where Sunrisers have gone with an extra spinner, perhaps looking at yesterday's game too. Punjab have removed their best spinner. I'm assuming it's tactical and not injury related. Surprised?
Very surprised. I think Chahar is, I mean, he hasn't been consistent, but he's still a good enough bowler and he can affect games. So to see that means that they're going to rely on Livingston, I think, to bowl his full complement of overs, and therefore they can mix and match with their seamers as they need to use them.
All right, Ravi wanted you to handle the lineups and the teams for this game of vital significance. Now he's with us, and I'd given him some homework. Let me see if he's done it. Ravi, I told you, right? You have to come up with some talking points for a game like this. I've already gone through the teams with Dan. What have you done your homework today, Ravi?
Homework is try and finish off on a good note, just like Mumbai Indians did. I mean, that's all you can take back to your franchise. Right, we didn't have the greatest of seasons, but at least we ended on a good note. So, irrespective of who plays, they're looking for the result, and that's a win.
Yeah, he's traveling so many places, Ravi. He joins us from a very nice location, a different location every time. Ravi, where are you now? I'm going to keep a track on you. I'm going to make sure that you don't go anywhere.
I'm back in the bay.
Okay, excellent. So I'll go catch you in case you don't show up on time next time. Now let me put that down to technical difficulties. It's not Ravi's fault. He's been a busy man, Mr. Shastri, but he's come at just the right time. I'm going to bring up that Sunrisers team for you again, Ravi, and it's a different one because Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Umran Malik now have the knowledge of knowing that they are back in Indian colours. Bhuvi was part of the Indian setup, but Umran Malik has now got a call up for the South Africa series. Makes for a great discussion with both Dan and Ravi. We already heard about how they would have liked to see Umran managed. But I'll bring up that squad too, which sees some changes. A lot of players rested, as we would have expected. KL Rahul will lead 18-man squad for a 5-match T20I series against South Africa. Very interested in the Umran Malik chat. While we were all saying he should be part of it, 14 games in the IPL, long season. Now there's a T20 series 10 days later. In terms of timing, is this the appropriate timing, or a break would have been?
Firstly, I need to apologise to you because every person that you've mentioned has been included in the squad or rested. So you were right the whole time. So I take all that back. I apologise for that.
Good. Can we get his apology on camera? Let's get rid of the graphic. Yeah. Now apologise to me.
You heard it. You heard it.
Good. Anyway.
What was the question?
Umran Malik. I keep recalling the point that you made about Shane Bond Singh. Mohi played that could have been that resulted in him bowling almost slower.
Well, I think it's the more he trained. I think it's more about that. So if they can build him up for big games and then unleash him, I think that's where you get the best out of them. Sometimes when there are these long tournaments or long tours, out of 30, 40, 50 days, you might bowl 40 of them, and that's just not conducive to bowling fast. So I think this is where the bowling coach gets around in Umran Malik and understands how he builds for a game and understands how to prepare him best so that he is bowling fast no matter what. There shouldn't be any excuses around tiredness because he should be fresh the whole time.
Now it's not ifs but whens, Ravi, and you said last time that you'd like to see Umran get a central contract. Let's get him part of the scheme of things. As management goes now, he goes straight into, I'm guessing, an India training session or with the Indian team. Do you believe a break would have been due, or no, association with the team immediately is the right thing?
I think association with the team is the absolute right thing because at least he can be groomed properly for all. On current form, they might just play. If he's bowling well in the nets and doing the right thing, they'll unleash him at the earliest against South Africa.
Yeah, Umran Malik's fascinating discussion. Feels good though. I'm guessing if you earn a India call-up as a result of an IPL, Umran Malik's not seen a lot of cricket outside of half an IPL last year and full IPL this year.
Oh, it's so exciting. I mean, it's such a reward for a special type of bowler. We're still waiting to judge him on how much he could impact international cricket, but I think that style of bowler gets everyone excited. The 150 Ks, what's he going to be like when he comes up against a David Warner in a big international game, or a Quinton de Kock, Aidan Markham? We're going to see that in the South African series, but I think that's the matchup that we want to see. Does that pace translate to international cricket, and can he be a wicket-taking option like he has in the IPL?
Not a bad series to get him in. South Africans seem to be most comfortable against Umran Malik in this IPL. It'll be a nice test for him to perhaps see one team which is not as alien to playing fast bowling.
No, they're all relatively comfortable, South Africans. They have the ability to play fast bowling, so I don't think there'll be a fair factor for them as it could be for other international teams. So how they use them is going to be crucial. How they use all those players. I mean, because they've got an 18-man squad, because they're building and planning towards a World Cup, and the fact that they've left 5 or 6 guys, I think, rested, who are inevitably going to be in that squad. So there's going to be some jostling for positions, and you can make your mark pretty early if you have a performance early in this series.
The other sort of big return story is, of course, that of Hardik Pandya, who returns to an Indian T20 side. Are there expectations that will be different from Pandya now? You'd like to see Pandya, the bowler, bowl regularly, Ravi, or has that also become now a case of workload management given how important a player he is? All right, I think we'll just wait till we re-establish a connection with Ravi Shastri. But there are a couple of other questions that would be asked of that team. We'll just bring it up one more time. Hardik Pandya is certainly in it. And the other big call is Dinesh Karthik returns after last featuring for India at white ball cricket in that World Cup semi-final in 2019. There is room for Venkatesh Iyer as well, and a Ravi Bishnoi. Now, I'm fascinated by selectors looking at players who've had an underwhelming IPL, but had decent appearances the last time they played for India. We tend to say if you have a good IPL, it fast-tracks your selection to the Indian team. But if you have a bad IPL also, it's not necessarily something that national team selection takes into account.
I think it's a fantastic way to select. I think you're still putting faith in players that have succeeded for India, and you're understanding the vagaries of form, and that it's not always easy through an IPL season to be at your best, but they still view the likes of Bishnoi at his best, and they're also rewarding IPL form. So it seems like they're getting the balance perfectly right, and an 18-man squad allows you to do that. You get to hand out a few more caps and reward form, and also try to back players that have performed for you in the past.
The Hardik Pandya question, I mean, for a player who can almost take the call himself on what his contribution would be when he's playing for Gujarat Titans, when he comes to the Indian team now, I mean, they're not going to always select a team which has bowling options independent of Hardik, or could they?
Yeah, I mean, I think they could. I think the main bit is around his batting and how they see his role in the full-strength team. And therefore, will they bat him at number 6, albeit that he's performed so well in the IPL, and he may even be better than some of the batsmen ahead of him in this particular lineup. But is the right move just to say, okay, you're going to be our number 5 or number 6 when it comes to the World Cup, so we're going to keep you there the whole time? Or is it, we'll just give you as much batting as we can leading into what is an incredibly important World Cup for all teams, not just India.
Selectors are clearly watching our show since Arshdeep Singh seems to be in the lead. Mohsin Khan, we thought he might get a look in. Natraj, I'm not sure what the result was on his fitness availability and whatnot. He's not playing today. But Arshdeep, now confirmed even from the selector's point of view, is leading that pecking order in terms of left-arm seamers, even ahead of a Khalil Ahmed who's capped.
I think so. I think they've obviously respect the fact of what he's done at the death, and normally his death bowling is against quality batsmen as well, and I think that's what sets him apart, that the ability to execute close to 100% of the time is incredible, and there's no one else in world cricket, no one else in the IPL who's replicated that, and it's a skill, not only a physical skill but a mental skill as well to be able to do that. So it's nice to see him get that reward and be put into that squad, and hopefully gets a chance to play.
Kuldeep Yadav there too. This could be one of the rare sort of series while it's being played here where we see Chahal and Kuldeep. Not something we're guaranteed to see in a World Cup in Australia in a playing 11.
I think so, because I think the all-rounders with Hardik can cover that middle batting position with Jadeja not there. So we may see back to the old days of Chahal and Kuldeep in there, and I think that this sort of series can bring the best out of them. And also the fact that Chahal will bowl the hard overs, and you can match up Kuldeep. You can use him when you want as a wicket-taking option. We won't see him at the back end. We won't see him at the power play. We'll see him in those middle stages where he can be really aggressive, while Chahal will pick up the slack in the rest of them.
You say that, I'll just bring up that team one more time, because if you just look at some death bowling options, remember there's no Jasprit Bumrah, no Mohammad Shami. Avesh Khan is in that team, so too is Harshal Patel, nice to see, and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. It'll be interesting to see which set of bowlers play together. If you have to try and make your ideal bowling composition to cover bases in a T20 game, Dan, we're looking at Bhuvi, Harshal, Avesh, Harshdeep, Umran Malik. Those are your seam bowling options. What choice of bowlers would you pick to cover all bases?
I think to start, I think Harshal's obviously a given, and I'd like to see Avesh Khan and Arshdeep Singh get a chance as well. I think Bhuvi is so established that you understand how he can affect the game, and he'll get his opportunity, and then potentially the likes of Umar Malik at the back end of the tournament. But I think Avesh provides that power play bowling. Arshdeep Singh can do that as well, and then you can hand it back to Avish in the middle order, and then Harshal and Arshdeep at the back end of the innings.
All right, I think Ravi's back with us. We can just get him part of the conversation too. Yeah, there he is in front of that famous painting of his. I know the internet is good over here. Ravi, you got me loud and clear?
Trying to skip position. They're saying the network seems to be fine.
But you're being flexible, as you're supposed to be in 2020 cricket. You can.
You have to be, because
anywhere.
once you open the batting and you batted at number 10, you should be ready to bat anywhere.
I love it. I love it. That's what we expect from you, Ravi. We're just discussing how it's interesting to see. We tend to believe if you have a good IPL, it fast tracks your selection to the Indian team. But even players who've had an underwhelming IPL, the likes of Venki Iyer, Ravi Bishnoi, they were good for India the last time they played. Selectors have continued to keep faith with them. That's a good way to approach it.
I think very good way to approach it, so that they don't suddenly feel insecure. They feel they have something to offer. They want to see them back, amongst the Indian players, and see actually, what's wrong with them. Was it pure not playing well, a lack of confidence? If so, what can we do to try? And these are two very important players, because if there are any injuries to, the all-rounders, then you could have some serious problems.
Hardik Pandya's return is, of course, another big headline for the Indian team, Ravi. How tempted would you be to keep him in this position for the Titans? Of course, he can play the 5, 6, 7 role whenever needed, but why not give more people that opportunity, since it's a difficult area to master? Would you be looking at all in that direction?
Yeah, they'll be looking at Hardik's fitness for sure. The good thing is they brought him back into the mix, so that they understand, how to use him, what his actual physical state is, before they decide, should we use him as a batsman in the top 5? And then not worry too much about his bowling, that we can focus then on Venkatesh Iyer, or if he can give me 2 overs, then see which is the best number for him. So I think in the case of Hardik, it is just a case of understanding his physical state, as to where he stands at the moment, fitness-wise and physically.
Dinesh Karthik's return, Ravi, after, of course, his last ODI, his last limited overs appearance was in that World Cup semi-final in 2019. Classic case of IPL form translating into an India call-up?
Yes, current form. And, at the number, because at that number where you got to finish the innings, you don't have too many. Yes, he can act as a wicket-keeper also, but I think they'll be purely thinking of him as maybe even as a batsman, if need be.
We are obviously in reserve territory, we can call it that. No Rohit Sharma, no Virat Kohli. But as far as leadership goes, Rahul as captain, Rishabh Pant as vice captain, that's the pecking order now. You think Rahul is now ahead in terms of just the race for people to lead India?
I think he captained in South Africa, so that would be the logical choice as to, let continue with him and see, how he goes. He's had a very good IPL. He's taken his team into the playoffs. It's a new team. So, I think it's the right decision, because if he was captain in South Africa, then it's a different ball game. But since he captained in South Africa, why, upset the apple cart? Let's take it from there.
Interesting you say that, but how tempted would you have been to not only pick players on form from the IPL to India, but look at the captain options? There are 3 or 4 of them there, and all of us would say, oh, Hardik Pandya has been so impressive. Let's see what Hardik Pandya, the captain for India, is like, managing a completely different group of players. Would that thought entertain you?
No, it won't entertain me because captaincy is not something you fool around with. It's if you're given it to someone 2 months ago, it's pointless just changing it for the sake of changing it. And if you look at captaincy wise, even Rao has done a good job in the playoffs. So it's no big deal. You carry on with the guy who's leading India.
All right, fair enough. So plenty that we'll look forward to as this team has been announced now for the 5-match T20I series against South Africa. Players already on their way out at the moment. What are we looking at the Wankhede in a game like this? What would you like to see from both these teams? Let's forget a good score and whatnot. But Sunrisers, the problems they've had. Punjab with the problems they've had. What do you think are the few boxes to tick?
First thing is I want no super over, so that's a key requirement.
It could very well happen in a game like this.
Quick game. We're after a quick game. You're talking about what I want, eh? Not what they need.
Yeah. You could be the Punjab Kings coach next season. You could also be the Sunrisers coach next season. So now why don't you think like that?
I'd rather be here.
Yeah.
I think what they want is those new players that have come in, particularly because they've waited so long. They obviously picked them at auction. So Mankad, I think, is fascinating that they wait this long as an all-rounder who they didn't think that could come in for Rishi Darwin, who obviously is very experienced but hadn't played for a long time. So I'm fascinated to see selection models and how you get to these conclusions. But you just want a performance. You just want to shake hands and say goodbye in a happy mood.
Okay. Amishi, you've given me your personal preferences of this game. Let me ask Ravi what he expects
Ravi's the
from this
same
game.
as well. I know Ravi wants a quick game.
Ravi wants a quick game. Ravi, come on. What are we expecting from today?
No, I said that yesterday. He said, what do you think? What can you expect from both teams? I said nothing. Just a quick game is a good game because what's it? There's nothing to play for here. There's nothing to play for, barring finishing a game quickly. So they're fearless. Smack it. If three players, get it right, you'll get that 160, 170, and then take it from there.
All right. I'm just going to step away from the T20 side of things because India has also announced a test squad. I'll just get a quick comment on only one thing. Pujara returns. Like that call, don't you, Ravi?
Sorry?
Yeah, I said Pujara returns to the test squad. We know what he's been doing in England. You like that call, Ravi?
Yeah, very good call. Very good. I mean, for me, it was a no-brainer. I mean, he had to be there. The fact that he went there, he got the number of runs, he's got the number of balls he's played in England. Plus, what he's done with the Indian team over the last, 18. I think it's a very good call.
It's a tricky position to be in, to pick a team for a one-off test overseas, but that's what they've had to do. Fair enough. Player goes and plays county cricket and gets heaps of runs.
I don't know what other formula there is to get back into a side other than go to the country that you're about to play against and score a heap of runs. So, I mean, Pujara is such a fine player, and when he's playing well for India, he just balances out that side. So I hope that he can continue that form from county cricket into test matches.
All right, we'll leave it there. We'll pick up the chat with Ravi Shastri and Dan Vettori at halftime on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout powered by IQ 9 5G. As I leave you, we will bring you the winner of this week's IQ ESPN Cricket Info Biggest Fan Challenge, and we'll see you in 20 overs time.
Hello, sir. My name is Harshal Galia. I'm currently pursuing sports management from Mumbai. It's an honor to meet you. I won't take your much of your time. I would just dive into my first question. My first question is that in this IPL, we have seen there are varieties of left-arm pacers in IPL. So for me, Arshdeep has been the most consistent one from the last 2 years. So what do you think makes him different from other left-arm pacers?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Harshal. Arshdeep is also my favorite because he's been nailing those Yorkers. He's bowling those tough overs. He bowls only one in the power play overs, and that too not very often. He always ends up bowling 2 or 3 in the death overs, and no other bowler can actually put their hand up and say that this is the job that we are doing. And he's nailed Yorkers, he's bowled slower ones, he's used the angles beautifully. And above all, he's shown the appetite and the temperament to get hit and still bounce back strongly in the same over itself. So Arshdeep, as you rightly mentioned, Harshal has been the pick of the left-arm pacers. And we keep saying in T20 cricket that left is right.
Yes, sir. My second question is, What do you do to improve your vocabulary and word power while commentating? And who's your idol as a commentator?
Okay, so I come from Delhi and I'm a Hindi commentator, Harshal. So Hindi is our first language. We think in Hindi and we talk in Hindi. So it comes naturally, but then I have worked not on the vocabulary as such. I do keep picking up new words. And the moment I pick up a new word, my discipline is that use that new word in the next 2 hours, 10 times. Even in a conversation when I'm not even commentating. So that word, I start owning that word and then it becomes a part of my vocab. So I do that as a discipline. Secondly, I work on the things that I need to say and it should look a little different, sound a little different. And if you've not owned that line already, you won't be able to deliver it live. So those are the few things that you keep in mind so that the live performance is actually very seamless and not affected at all.
Yeah, sir. And who's your idol for commentary?
Good question. So idol is Tony Gregg, late Tony Gregg. He was the guy. So while I was taking up this profession, I listened to Richie Beno and Tony Gregg a lot. Even just going on YouTube and watching their videos and actually listening to their commentary, ears plugged from my way to the studio and back and all of that. I've done that diligently. And Tony knew how to create a theater. And I do feel that
Yes.
the format that we actually cover most is T20 cricket. Test cricket, of course, allows you to be a bit of Richie Beno, but all white ball cricket is all Tony Gregg. You have to create the theater, just the atmosphere, and give an immersive experience where you are as excited as you want the fan to be.